Star Trek, and I'm like, who is this person? This is like one of my dream friends. You're nerdy, you're smart, you're outgoing, you like to have a good time, I'm in the right place. Ended up being Chin, and Chin's now currently VP of Innovation of Blue Prism, which we're going to learn more about tonight, thinking about artificial intelligence, robotics, digital workforce. And it was really interesting because when I met him, he was a solutions architect. He was transitioning from Oracle to TIBCO. And he's worked with, and I asked him, I was like, Chin, you've made such profound movements in your career. What are you doing? What's keeping you going? He says, Catherine, I just love talking to people. I love hearing about their ideas and their dreams. And he's like, so many people don't know how to take that and make it real, like an actual product, something that's out in the market that's actually helping people. And so I just keep asking people, how can I help you? What can I do? And we keep figuring out these problems. And today, you're VP of Innovation. And so he told me, he's like, Catherine, I think there's so much opportunity as businesses, as in government, and on the individual level, that people just aren't aware what's happening, right? We still think it's science fiction, but it's not. And I think we need to have an event with a DJ and some beer. And I said, event, let's do it. And so that's why we're here tonight. So everyone, a hand of applause for Chin Hua.
So I'm running low on wine. Do we have any more wine in the back?
I'll get you a glass.
Okay, awesome, thank you. Might want to bring the bottle. Because we're going to do some pretty interesting stuff here tonight, specifically about what the future could look like. And then I got my, so don't think of us as a comedy troupe, but we are. So, we'll introduce you guys in a minute. So I guess I got to go through my 15 minutes of spiel here. But
Sit down.
it's very funny. So, yeah, sure. Thank you. This is what happens when we've been drinking and having a good time talking tech. And it's exciting to be here with all of you because obviously the man from Toronto brought the weather down.
Yeah, I came to escape.
This is what happens when you drink.
There's two guys.
Can you hear me? Yeah? Okay. So, all of you had a choice to brave the cold, to come out here and share in the vision of what the future could be. And so, yes, professionally, I work for Blue Prism. I'm one of the senior leads that manage the way that technology will occur in the future. But the whole purpose of us being here today is the fact that each one of you in the audience have made a choice to join us in this conversation around technology. Ooh, a bunch of geeks in the room, that's amazing. Yes, I am a bit of a Star Trek fan, so live long and prosper and all the great, wonderful things that, and I'm not a Borg, just if in case you are familiar with that concept. But really, over the next hour and a half, 2 hours, we're going to be talking about some really, really important things. And as I'm thinking about why I'm on stage sharing this vision with you, many times I go back to my family, a little bit about who I am. I was born in a refugee camp in Thailand. And the vision was because we were escaping persecution of the communists in 1976. My parents came here, didn't speak an ounce of English, and obviously here with you sharing this dream, the fact that if you work hard enough, if you understand how to apply this in everyday scenarios, you can, in essence, change your career. This is an opportunity that's really important for all of us because what's important is that over the next 10 years, just 10 years, there's $10 trillion of possibilities and opportunities that's associated with the growth of this new emerging technologies. This is so important in the fact that, let me just borrow you. Thank you. Well, I'll use this one. So what's important is the fact that there's $10 trillion out there for each one of us. And that's an estimate by Forbes magazine over the next 10 years. And the reason why you guys are here today is not to talk about Mary Kay, right? It's not to talk about some multi-level marketing. It's the fact that it's going to impact all of us. I have a global responsibility at Blue Prism. I travel all around the world. This year, I probably put 600,000 to 700,000 miles on a plane. I'm rarely actually home here in Dallas. Dallas is home for me. My wife and daughter lives in Toronto, so we commute. That's our commute. And the fact that I'm here to talk to you about tech and you're here to listen and share some ideas is very important. And so one of the things before we jump into talking about the panel, and one of the things I want to talk about is how fast the world is moving today. This is the Starship from SpaceX. Elon Musk is taking humans to Mars and beyond with this spaceship. I mean, you think about that. My daughter is 10 years old. In 20 years, she could be living and working on Mars. It's crazy. It's the craziest thing. And when I sit here and I think about what life is going to be like 20 years from now, 5 years from now. And so this is a famous quote that if you go to YouTube, and I picked this off of there, it says, if the design takes too long to build, it's the wrong design. The tendency is to overcomplicate things. We tend to think like that as human beings. So when you think about innovation and you think about how fast things are changing, and the fact that every one of us has an opportunity to grab a hold of that $10 trillion over the next 10 years, it's about making things simple. It's about understanding how to apply this technology. And you're going to hear a bunch of buzzwords today. After my presentation, there's a buzzword bingo. So we have Amazon gift cards for you if you knock down those words right. And so that's the point. But the point is that there's a lot of information out there that's available. I gave some numbers up here for you. Before I ask what these numbers are, I'll show you what they are. Show hands of background in technology. Any developers, software developers in the room? Show hands of business management folks, professional folks, non-techies. Great. Show hands of angel investors, VC funds, those type of things. We got, okay, this is the guy with the money back in the back. He's buying drinks all night tonight. But that's important. Anybody I missed? Anybody I missed? I want to make sure I didn't miss anybody in the room.
Very quickly.
Oh, very good. We got plenty of those too. And so, the point of this is the fact that all these numbers, and I'm going to call them out as you see here, 1%. 1% of all ideas become commercialized. Think about that. If you have an idea, you put 100 people in a room, only one will be able to make any money out of it. All right? This is important because as we look how technology will change the future, 5 to 10 years from now, if you want to open up a coffee shop in downtown Dallas, what you're going to do is pick up the phone and say, Siri, I have $100,000. I want to create a coffee shop. And Siri's going to ask you, where? And you will say, right here. I want to make a 20% margin on every coffee that I sell. And what Siri will do is go out into the supply chain, Amazon, whatever, buy all the coffee. A drone's going to deliver it to you. And all you're going to do, and they'll probably have a robot making coffee for you, by the way. And all you're going to do is take a picture of yourself drinking coffee on Instagram. That's your marketing tool. And all of a sudden, you're going to have customers. That's the vision. That's what's capable now, today, with current technology. It's just not mainstream yet. 41%. 41% of all jobs that we have today will be gone. So I think we have about 70, 80 people in the room. So 40 of you people will not be doing your job. So this side of the room, sorry, you're out of job. Right? So these studies are real. Yeah, so I have all my references down at the bottom, but it's real. 7. Lucky number 7. How many people in here has had all kinds of jobs in the past? So I'm going to pick on you, Meredith, because I know you. What kind of career have you had in the past?
I work for Chen right now, but 3 weeks ago, I
She works for me, yes.
I sold cranes and bubblegum machines, and 4 years before that, I sold safes and locks. And 4 years before that, I worked in the financial industry in marketing.
So the reality is that in your career lifetime, until you're retired, you will make a minimum of 7 career changes. I was a DJ, still am. I have all my DJing gear, a special event planner, chef, cook, tennis coach. Again, Rich, you understand that. Software developer. I was actually in a comedy troupe on stage for a little bit. Tried a bit of acting career. Didn't work out, obviously. But yes, 7 career changes over the next 30 to 40 years of everybody's career. The number 6 here is actually pretty interesting. If you look at this Forbes global top 10 companies on the planet, 6 of them are tech companies. AWS, Microsoft, who else? Apple. Several of these companies. And the one that actually broke the $1 trillion amount valuation mark was Apple. It fell down because we're in a shaky market right now, but that's where we're at. $100 billion of productivity increase over the next 5 years. That's in the US. $100 billion of productivity gains. This means your company that you're working for today is probably going to get 10 to 100x time your work level. And how are they doing that? Through digital workers, AI, all these new emerging technologies. They still need the human brain to enable this technology, okay? And that's actually changing too. And then 500 million jobs. Yes, 40% of those jobs are going to go away, but there's going to be 500 million more jobs coming. And for those folks who work for Blue Prism and emerging technologies, you know what those jobs are. Those are the jobs that train the robots. Those are the jobs that figures out how to train an AI model, how to do work, and all these different new things. And what's important is the fact that the global market is changing. So these are stats. So in a former life, I was a data scientist. My job was to find and correlate data together. Try to find some sense out of the chaos. Try to understand how I can leverage this data. It was the greatest job because I can give a report to the CEO of a company, they look at this nice dashboard and say, that's nice, I'll do my own thing. And then, hey, I gave him data. If he took the company down to crap, then it's not my fault, right? But when I correlate this data, what you're seeing here is 67% of recruiters cannot find qualified individuals. What's interesting here is the fact that why? Is because you have a mismatch between available jobs, specifically software engineers, sales execs, architects, and then folks who have actual skills, deliverable skills. Customer service agents, teachers, drivers. So there's a mismatch of skills. And then ultimately, if I say that I have all this job, I have all these people, something happens with my current employee base. So in that bottom left-hand side, what you're seeing is 13% turnover in the technology space. So we have about 100 people here. So 10 to 13 of you are already gone, looking transition to a different role. So the reality of the fact that you hear all those doom and gloom, the robots are taking our jobs, we're not going to have anything. Yes, they're taking jobs away, but they're not taking jobs away from the teachers and stuff. They're taking jobs away from the jobs that people aren't working. If you think about that, right? So if I have all this high turnover, and I'm a business, and that's my risk of my business, I'm going to replace that with something sustainable, something that makes sense, that I can control, right? And then what's happening on a global market, because I deal with that all the time, is the fact that countries like Japan, the US, Europe, our unemployment rate is below 3%. I happen to have 4 or 5 openings on my team as a technology developer, and I cannot find them. On average, to find a good software developer, it takes 9 months. in the US. And in Canada, it might be a little different, right? So what that means is that there's a massive demand. So this chart's important. Take all that data I just told you. So how do we solve this problem? We have a couple of startups in here in the back, folks that I've talked to are doing some crazy, wonderful things. But $170 billion of investment over the past 5 years in emerging tech. Crazy. Let me tell you how crazy it is. It's almost a 40 years worth of investment in the space shuttle program. I've never seen $100 million. So I was trying to put that in the picture. This is to 2018. If we were to throw in the 2019 numbers, we are well over $200 billion of investment. So you think about that. Over the past 6 years, the money that's been put into AI emerging technologies is equivalent to 40 years of the space shuttle program. Soup to nuts. Crazy, right? So if you think about that, and you start to understand how technology is evolving over time, the technology itself, if I can get my screen to come up, thank you. Tell me, show me, teach me. I started writing programs, geeky here. I started writing software programs when I was 13 years old. My mom, I love her to death, she just got back from Paris. She bought me this $3,000 piece of crap machine. Well, back then it was the top of the line, but this massive machine. You got this big old floppy, 5 1/4 inch floppy drive. I don't know if you guys remember any of that. I'm dating myself here. And I'm having to learn how to write DOS bash files. Literally typing out the commands, telling it what to do. Load this file, copy this file, make this directory, right? That's this stuff. That was primarily the first generations of computing. Telling the computer what to do. In the 80s, 90s, when you start to have an icon and a mouse, you're dragging things around, then you're showing the computer what to do. Click here, do this, do that. Take this icon, copy it over here. So it is in essence recording your actions. And for the music people in the room, it's almost like putting a mixtape together back in the old days, right? You listen to the radio, you love what you hear, hit the record button real quick, and then you give it to your girlfriend, and hopefully she likes it. Right? And so, where we are at today is actually very unique. The whole teach me. We're teaching computers how to learn. We're giving it a business process to say, okay, just like you teach a human being. We're going to hire a person. We're going to do a background check. We're going to make sure they have their W-4 information ready. We're going to look at their passport to see if they're really a person that we can hire. All those different processes now can be put together in our workflow. The computers themselves do not have to be told what to do or shown how to do it. We just tell them what we want. And it will build it for us. That's pretty crazy. So, what I also want to cover real quick here is the fact that there is a massive opportunity. So this is a study done by Gartner. For those folks who don't know who Gartner is the leading analyst firm that does all these different crazy research on technology. So this is what they call the Gartner hype curve. So all the new technology coming is all the stuff that's going up to the mountain. And then all the, what they call the accepted technology is going to be kind of lagging towards, and then eventually those technology components will start to be more sustainable over time. The ones that don't live past the hype fall off. They die, they become the startups that nobody ever hears about. And so what I'm suggesting is that you see all of these dots, and they're going to be anywhere from 2 to 5, 10, 20 years, whatever. But all these dots that you see here, those are the $10 trillion opportunities over the next 10 years. It's like playing roulette. Anybody here play roulette? That's the only game I play in the casinos. I used to work for the Las Vegas Sands on a consulting project, and too much technology. The only thing that I can actually make money in is roulette. So this is your roulette wheel on the left-hand side. what we have to figure out is which one of those is actually viable. Which one of them is going to make us a little bit of money? Which one of them is going to make our lives a little bit easier in serving the public? And which one of them is where we may want to put our bets into? So, one of the things I want to talk about today specifically is that as we look at technology and how it's going to mature over the next 2 to 5 years, the bets we're going to place into these emerging technologies and saving and changing the future. Real quick, I'm going to go off tangent here because I have a bit of alcohol.
Another drink.
Yeah.
15 minutes.
Okay. So if I go over, see, I have to drink. Anybody here watched the original Terminator? All right, Sarah Connor says, they're just going to change the fate, right? So this is kind of my moment to sharing with you is the fact that we're changing the fate of human right now. The stuff we know around these enterprise applications and business processes, in essence, it's almost like the Matrix. We're downloading that knowledge. We're building models of automations to do this and that right now. If you want to hire a robot to be your accountant, technically you can right now. And then what we're taking is that knowledge and experience and everything around these applications, there's obviously more, and we're dropping it into this digital worker over here. And if we do that, what's the outcome? And that's part of our discussion on our panel today is the fact that if I take all my knowledge and experience and drop it into a machine, there's 3 things that I think could happen. 1, yes, we change the world. 2, the effect on the next generation. And 3, sounds very ominous, but the survival of humans at the emotional level. It's one thing now to say, let's go play golf and be friends. That's why I personally chose not to live stream this event. Because the people who want to be here are here. They're creating relationships. You guys braved the cold to be here to hear us talk today, to share our point of view. Because the value here is not in the transition of knowledge to a machine. The value here is about building relationships, human relationships. So I want to thank you for your time today. We're going to talk about all kinds of crazy stuff. There is a buzzword bingo. If you've never played this game before, every time I sit through some of these tech talks and I hear all the nomenclatures and all the blah, 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 sometimes I just fall asleep. And so we try to keep this interesting. So on your mobile device, go to this link, click on it. We have 10 Amazon gift cards that we're giving away if you have a bingo. And so give you guys a few minutes here. The words we're going to speak up here, we don't know what it is.
And I've looked at some of them and they're not fair.
And they're not fair because. So there is a word called supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. Who got that on their card? 1, 2. Anybody else? 3, 4? Okay. I have to have a glass of wine because I have to drink 4 times. Yeah, I'm going to start with that. And, we got some wine? Oh, wow. Oh, and bottles. Great. So this is awesome. You get to see us get drunk on stage, and then we will start to tell the truth about technology. So it's amazing.
When does the bingo start?
Yeah, so, what's that?
When does bingo start?
Bingo starts now.
All right.
But you just said that word wrong word.
So no, I said supercalifragilisticexpialidocious on purpose to make sure I saw it. So I saw 4 people raise their hand, and
Can they click it? Can they go?
yeah, they can click it. You can go ahead and click it. And then I'm going to
Started
drink.
now, not 2 minutes ago.
Is it from what you say now? It's from what you said in your spiel.
It is what I said. When we get on the panel, how's that? We're on the panel, right?
All right, let's go.
Alright. Thank you, Jen.
So everyone take a couple of minutes to find out you are all if you want to play. May I have the panel please approach the stage?
Not really.
I'm
nervous?
All right, well, Chin hit us with a lot.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's kind of like a lot hitting the brain right now, but we're going to dive a little bit deeper into what they just talked about, and I want to officially welcome you into what I call a nerd talk. As we nerd out on this, and we're going to, of course, be taking questions. We have an awesome panel with us tonight, and I'm going to give just a very brief introduction because these people are actually so awesome for me to actually give you their full bios. It would just be too long, and I want you to see them in action and their ideas. But we have everyone from people like Christy. Christy, you work with people to bring underprivileged communities up to par with the people that are very fluent. So we see these communities that just aren't operating the same way, right? So how can we use technology? You work with people in infrastructure and all these different departments to kind of bring equality, right, using technology. We have our deputy Mayor Pro Tem over here, Adam, who's going to give us a little bit more on the government side of what he's seeing. We, of course, have Chin, who you know now. We have Shamaz, who has 3 companies over here, all technology-based, who's going to give us an insider view, especially from his consulting business that helps retail, right? You have all sorts of industries that you're looking into, financial, healthcare, on how to innovate their infrastructure, right? So we see all these disparate systems and how do we make them innovative and work together. And of course, our smart city innovation guy over here, how do we make smart city an actual reality? So this is your panel tonight. Give them a hand of applause, please. So my first question for all of you, and I'm going to hear from every single one of you because I think your point of view is going to be so interesting, is, and Chin just did this with so much, but I want to look at the bigger picture, when we're actually looking at what's happening now in cities and in certain industries, like in retail, healthcare. What are you actually seeing happening when it comes to emerging technology in your perspective viewpoint?
Say first. Well, thank you, Brian's laughing because he knows this end of the panel is not the technology savvy ones, and that end of the panel is. I included you in that. So one of the things, I spend a lot of time working in between communities and stakeholders, and so those groups are often different, and we don't give them enough grace and understanding that they're different. And so one of the projects that we're currently working on is building the integrated health clinic in southern Dallas. And so what does that mean? So right now, if you are in southern Dallas and you have a mental health crisis, you have 2 options. You're either going to the emergency room or you're going to jail. And so we believe that you need to think about that differently because it's really unfair to the population who we're trying to serve. And so one of the things that we've started doing is dialing back and actually asking our residents, our neighbors, what is it that, how can we use technology? One, we've learned that technology can be really intimidating. For example, we had this whole strategy of we're going to offer telehealth. And I had one woman look at me and said, I will never go there to use telehealth. And I was like, okay, well, help me understand that. But what we did learn through that process is how technology can be such a key in this of understanding, hey, Christy, right now I have to go to 4 different doctors to try and understand anything about my health, and none of my doctors speak to one another. So we've actually been able to work with Cityfront and actually developing, instead of asking hospital communities to rethink the way that they're entering data, rather extract it so a patient can say, on this date, I weighed this much, I had this kind of test or this kind of exam, and that when they go into their therapist or when they go into their, even if it's their dentist, that they can actually take their electronic health record with them. For all of you who sit in this room, you know it's nearly impossible to try and even get your own health records to be able to understand from step to step. And so that for us has been really innovative. And while sitting in front of a screen is kind of terrifying talking to a doctor, being able to own your own rights because of technology is something that we've been able to see it leveraged. And so for us, again, in a really disinvested community, to be able to launch something like this in a disinvested community is, one, not something we normally do, but 2, it gives us an opportunity to say, hey, we really want to build trust with you, and we think this is how we do it.
On the innovation from the city of Dallas, which in some ways is an oxymoron. Like, the way that we're going to turn the next tide and we're going to get to the next place is going to be through people like you sitting in this room. It's going to be Brian Davis coming down and banging his head against the wall for a year to get the city to think about how to look at this just through a different lens. I mean, we're so excited that you can drive to the airport and look down a row and see whether or not you have a parking spot or not. That's where we are as a city right now, but yet the technology is there. Cityfront has been, as I said, for a year, banging their head against the wall with us, trying to get us as the city to start to recognize the technology that's available, the opportunities to really be a smart city, to start looking at not just the with bingo, the tag word bingo or the buzzword, not just the,
Keep playing.
not just the
We don't
buzzwords.
know what's
Like,
happening.
that's all we do in the city is we hear the buzzwords and we start getting excited about it, and then we don't have the follow through, and our policies are such that don't encourage that in many ways. Now, to the other point of how many of our jobs are going to be moving more to the automation and the bots system, we are also at the same time increasing policies. We just last year passed a mandatory sick leave, and we passed some other policies that now make it encourage employers actually to move away from human capital and human positions. And so a lot of the things that we're doing are really kind of shots in the dark. And so I get personally really excited thinking about the opportunities that we have to look at next generation technology and opportunities. But as a city, it's going to be a tough time to get past some of those hurdles. The things we're looking at now with screened translation, and I mean, we have public safety issues. We have, even just sanitation. And I was driving behind our recycling truck moving into our alley this past week, and I've worked with our sanitation team for years, and I didn't even know that our main garbage trucks can pick up the cans and dump it in its truck itself. The recycling requires every person to be lifted and dumped in. And these are just common systems that we have about 170 of them every day across the city. And we're not even in many cases looking at how to automate and how to increase and use the available technology. So it's going to be you that are hearing and seeing and thinking and coming up with the ideas that come through our council, our leaders, our city management to make some of this stuff happen.
So you guys heard me talk a little bit about the vision. I'm going to talk a little bit about implementation. Many times I've worked with a lot of organizations and they have some great ideas, but they have no idea how to implement it. Working with a company in Europe, because they found a way to identify cancer 3 years earlier. 3 years earlier. But they have no idea how to take that to market. They have no idea how to sell that capability to me and you. And I'm sitting here thinking, can we as people, humans, be able to take these advantages of these technologies and dramatically change the way that we live? I lost my auntie to cancer because it was wrongly diagnosed. It wasn't the doctor's fault. It wasn't the fact that there's medical records all locked up. It's just the fact that they didn't have that level of coordination and expertise. My grandmother and my auntie could be here now, living because of that. So these are things that when you look at it at a personal level, and you look at the fact that it's not just changing society in general, it's impacting every one of us. So these are things that I want to talk about in our little talk track here.
Does this work? Do I need this?
I'll
use it.
If your mic works.
Does it? Yes. Okay.
You look.
I'm gonna use myself. I like to bring up an example of just how much more you can do today with a little than you could just 2 years ago. So we have a housing crisis in Toronto. I don't know how bad it is here in Dallas, but
Terrible.
is it? Yeah. So prices are through the roof. I don't know how you graduate out of university and find a place. It's crazy. So everyone is trying to freak out and figure out what's going on. Is it foreign capital coming in? Is it just units that are sitting open? So we have two cities on different sides of the coast. One's probably more progressive and started this earlier. So the city of Vancouver 2 years ago said, if you have a condo or a house anywhere in the city and it's vacant for more than 6 months, you pay a tax. It took them 4 years to enable all the systems to figure out if something was vacant or not. They had to go in through the bureaucracy, they had to do tax regulation, all that stuff. 4 years, and now they're at it, and now they're starting to get metrics. Charles has been thinking about it. Charles on the East Coast, right? We've been thinking about it for a long time. And I was driving in a couple days ago with a story on the news where some kid just took a camera out of his condo and faced it out at all the other condos in the area and did a running study for 4 weeks. And it was like, oh, if the lights don't go on, you know, I do a picture every 2 hours. If the lights don't go on in 3 weeks, nobody's there. So the city's like, hey, that's a great idea, we're doing it. And they have the metric in 5 months, right? So this is a 3-year difference. We're talking about something that took 4 years, now takes 3 weeks, right? And I can guarantee you it was hundreds of people in Vancouver that had to be hired, prepped, deal with the paperwork, and there was nobody that had to do that in Toronto. And if that doesn't scare the crap out of you today, it should. Because that's 4 years, and we're seeing that month to month. Those are the kind of changes we're seeing, I'd say, today. That's real.
Is it my turn? Okay.
Sure.
Is your mic on?
How many did I do there? Did I do buzzwords?
Any buzzwords? Did we say any words?
Oh. Well, first of all, I just have to say, if you ever attended a Duncanville school, raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stars out of that school. All right. Panther power.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's one.
So I'm Brian Davis, co-founder of Cityfront Innovations, and I really love it that you two had me answer the first. They've been so worried about what are we going to say. That was perfect. My background is in local government, is from the perspective of both appointed official and elected official. I've had a consulting company for 15 years, and we sell technology to cities. And 2 years ago, I would always talk to this gentleman back here, the bald man with the glasses. And his kids were in my kids' class at school, and we would just talk. He'd always pursue me to talk. I didn't want to, but I wouldn't do it to be honest. And finally, one day, I had worked with a company that sold, and he had just sold a software company, and we were talking about what we wanted to do with our lives once we grew up. And so we started Cityfront. And we decided that we were going to help cities engage in a very smart way with their community, a way that the citizen would want to engage, and not just the way the city thinks the citizen wants to engage. So naturally, we looked at artificial intelligence, and we use a zero-code platform that can rapidly deploy mobile web apps. So I called my good friend Adam, and I said, Deputy Mayor Pro Tem. And I said, hey, could you use this here at City Hall? And he was like, yes. So we go, we meet with the IT director or chief information officer, and he goes, I didn't even know this existed. We were taking pictures of potholes and graffiti, and we were using image recognition to tell the citizen what that is. And then because we know what it is, we know what department it would go to. Because we know what department it goes to, we can create a work order in their legacy system. So things that would normally take a long time, you can just take a picture and it's done. Or ask the city. Citizens want to be able to ask their city questions. They don't want to go in and like search through your mobile website or search through. So a lot of different things we can do, and we started adding to our platform. And thank you to Adam and Christy both. You keep pushing things forward in Dallas. We got a contract with them. We built it for them. They thought it would take 18 months. And Danny, how long did it take us to have it in test flight?
19 days.
19 days. So we rapidly deploy this stuff, and to your point, you have to be able to do it quickly. And to your point, if it takes too long, it's the next technology is already there. So then, Chen, who went to high school with me, at Duncanville, if I didn't mention that already, I saw that he got this job with Blue Prism. And I said, hey, I think there's some synergies here. And we met, and so he took a permit for the city of Austin, the residential remodel permit, which is the most frequently used permit in Austin. And it is a lengthy process. You have to know, who knows your tax parcel ID? It's right off the top of your head, or your lot size, or, I mean, how many know the square footage of your house to the number? Of course you do. Of course it's So these are things that would take a person calling City Hall, a human being at City Hall, taking that question and finding the database. And so Chen was like, hey, watch this. And in Ed, raise your hand, you were there that day. Blue Prism came to our office, and in 4 hours, they had fully automated this permit, where all the citizen has to do is say, remodel, and then it pulls up their address, because we're smart enough to know if you're using the app where you live. And once you hit, yes, that's my address, we fill out the permit, and we can approve it right there. So you don't have to go to the permit center and wait in line, and then they call you and go, oh, well, you didn't check the box that you're a single white female and twice divorced, so you have to come back next week and fill out that box. And so that is where we're using with Cityfront, RPA, and we...
Buzzword, look at your bingo.
Run!
I think you had like 12 ones.
I did, I'm so buzzwordy.
Bingo, yeah.
But,
And that's robotic processing. Is RPA, for those of you that don't know? Yes.
well,
Robotic processing automation.
automation. And synergy is a word that I've been recently introduced to at the end of the day. No, but like with, who knows what AS400 is? Is that on the Okay.
Oh, you actually see
So
some
RPA can actually go into an AS400 and log in like a human would. And we were in a city, North Richland, I won't say the name of the city. We were in a true story. They're like, well, we use a HTE SunGuard, it's a green screen, and I said, well, bring your administrator, database administrators in, we want to talk to them. Oh, well, it's 3:30. Yeah? They go home, they come in at 7 and leave at 3:30 so they can get to the Golden Corral. I go, well, how old are these people? Mildred is 75 and Fran was 78. But we can integrate in that. They can retire now.
Well, which brings up, we're going to get to that point because as you can kind of see this theme of, okay, so robots and AI can do a lot of the manual work we're doing. Shin has been a really great example of the guy that put up all the cameras and now someone's not going around for 4 months taking audits, right? You're getting that footage. And so we're going to get to that. What do we all get to do when we're Mildred and Fran's age and we're not working anymore, even before then? But I'm going to go on to this because we're going to get to a more individual level because I know I'm curious, hey, if I can automate all my work, what am I going to get to do with my time? We're going to get there. But I want to ask you a question because I know there's a lot of people that run businesses in here. They're business people. I have operation directors in here. So the people that are thinking, okay, what does this transition even look like? Like, what are my steps as a business, whether I'm an operations director or whatever part I am in this business? CEO, doesn't matter. What do I?
Okay, you got to so.
It's not louder than that, you know what I'm saying? You got-
We need
Yeah, we have a bingo.
Yeah, we need that.
So I need, is my mic working?
No.
You don't need it. Do you want this?
Hello?
This gets very fast.
I like your we just need your email address and name, that's all.
Okay,
And they'll send you the Amazon gift card.
okay.
My robot gonna do it?
We'll get a robot.
We'll get a robot.
That's
Actually, you can just speak it right now and then it will just happen.
So-
Do what?
I was kidding.
Sarah, Beth, I got you. Okay, I got you. So my question for the panel is, and this time it's just kind of like fend for yourself. If you have something to say, we're not going in line. You just got to speak up. What should someone in a business setting start thinking? Like, how do you start even thinking of being more innovative? What does that look like? What's your first steps? What should you even start thinking about? Who wants to take it?
I'll start with him. Well, so here's the thing I think that is different today than, let's say, 5 years ago. If you're starting a business today, you have none of the burdens of a business that's established for 5 years. All my big clients are trying to get nimble and fast and get away from their technology. And all the people that are starting up are outpacing them really quickly. So a really quick example is health insurance in Canada for corporations. If I want to go get a quote for health insurance for my company, for all my staff, I can go to a broker and they do this whole process and it's like a month and a half and they come back to me with a bunch of quotes.
You go to Geico.
Okay, we don't have that. It's that lizard, right? Is that your lizard? Yeah, that lizard is. Or I can just go on this website that this company out of like the West started up and put in some details and I get a quote in 20 minutes. Now,
That's once.
yeah, right? Oh, it's Geico? Oh, it's Geico. You guys are so ahead of the curve. That company that takes 3 weeks is instituting bots and AI and machine learning, doing all this stuff. And that other company that just started, all they did was ramp up an AWS server, put in some pre-done components, and look at open source software, and that's it. So I think you're at a real advantage today starting out. You may not feel like it, you may not have the capital, you may be taking some risk. But it is not hard for you to supersede anything these big guys do really quickly. They're scared to death.
So I would say that I'm working with customers at Blue Prism who are what I call mid-transition in their career. They started out accounting, finance, done some project management, maybe done some IT work, and now they're at a point to where they're looking to make a transition or a change. I've been doing IT stuff for 10 years. What do I do next? The opportunity is the fact that these emerging, bingo! Name, address, rank, and where's your drink? Drink for you. Drink for you, by the way.
You think Chanel's for that?
We're counting, we're just doing this?
Yeah, so, yeah, that's perfect. So flash for me?
Is that on the buzzword? It's not. Yeah.
But so the folks who are looking to make a transition, my advice would be four things. One, don't drink with these guys. But I would say have a vision for your career. Many times people come to me at a trade show and events like, hey, Shen, I want to get into AI, I want to get into robotics, I want to get into automation, how do I do it? The reality is that we are in the cusp of the very beginning. If you want to get involved, that's why you're here. You're connecting with the right people. That's number one, connect. Number two, read up on this stuff. There's a lot of community editions, so Blue Prism, our competition, everybody out there is basically giving us the software away for free. There's a lot of training classes online, call Shemes, he'll get you certified. And the reality is that the folks who are in control of these digital workers, robots, whatever you want to call them, they're the ones going to make money. The average salary, just FYI, in the US, yeah, I'm going to give money. I might as well just give money away, right? It's $1. $1 million. Well, in the US, the average developer, and I hate to use the word developer because you're not really developing stuff. You're just teaching a robot how to read a flowchart. That's all you're doing. And they're going to pay $100,000 to do that? Come on now. That's some really, really cool stuff. If you can logically put it on a whiteboard and walk through the process, you can be an automation architect. Think about that. And I'm going to use one of my team members, for example. He's not here, Mo. College grad, 24 or 5 years old, didn't know what he wanted to do. He works on the innovation team, super bright guy, and within 3 years of graduating university, he's got all the Blue Prism certification. He's probably the top 1% earner, and he's going out there as a 25-year-old advising CEOs how to change their company. That's some crazy shit. Right? is that on the lead guard? I don't know if I wrote it.
If it's close, it doesn't count.
But that's the opportunity. And then the last one I'll add here is the fact that yes, connect, learn, and share. We in a society sometimes we tend to think that knowledge is all we have, and that's what makes us different. But really, what makes you different is when you share. That's why we're all here. So that's it.
I can just give lots of problems.
That is true.
Problems to accepting technology as a company.
So,
You said affordable housing, and it made me think. I mean, there are so many problems that cities, especially the city of Dallas, are trying to solve for right now. So when we talk about housing, so we have a crisis right now. We need 20,000 units of affordable housing. You can define whatever affordable housing means, but just qualify it as affordable housing. And so
We also, at the same time, passed a comprehensive housing policy, because if you're familiar with the city of Dallas, we didn't have one, which makes a lot of sense, being one of the largest cities in the country. But we didn't have one, now we do. But we had then set out this goal for, well, through the comprehensive housing policy, we want to then figure out how to build 20,000 units. Great, so first question, where are we at to start? And they were pulling Excel documents of land available from Land Bank, from the city, from Dallas ISD. And still to this day, if you ask them for a comprehensive list of what available land is, they will look at you like you have 16 eyeballs. And we're like, so we want to solve and build 20,000 units over 3 years. But we're now 18 months in and we still don't have a comprehensive understanding of where land is even available. And so when you're talking about technology and how much simpler this could be, there are people, just today we got an email saying, hey, my husband and I we've got some funding available, we want to come in and build some affordable housing, could you just tell us where land is available to go and do this in a pretty targeted area? Nope, we can't. We can guess, and we can point on a map and tell you, like, this is an area where we know there's a lot of vacant land. But as cities, and I speak just of Dallas, we're so far behind name it that, name it transportation, name it homelessness. We've got 10,000 people who are homeless. I mean, all of these things. I asked the other day, when someone's calling into Dallas Police Department on a mental health crisis, how do we know where to send them? We have no understanding of where even beds are available or where hospital rooms have available. And so we are so far behind on just some really basic things that, like you, I feel like could be solved in 15 days if we actually put a concerted effort to figure out how to do this.
So sitting right here is Sam Merton, and we were both in the mayor's office a couple years ago, and the question was just, let's identify where the worst slumlords were in the entire city. Just identify who owns those properties. And first of all, we couldn't do it. They didn't have the registration to even figure out where those homes are. When we finally got the list and kind of pieced together the list through spreadsheets and everything else, the number one slumlord on the list was the city of Dallas. We didn't even know where our own property was, right? So when we talk about that problem solving, I mean, the way you start a business in this space is you just solve a problem. And there's so many really simple problems to solve that we need your help. I mean, just go outside. You know, now we're opening the shelters because it's freezing today. We don't know where all of those people experiencing homelessness and what that looks like. We don't know how to deal with panhandling. We don't know how to deal with where we're distributing our economic development funds. Like it's a constant issue, and these are problems that aren't that complicated. We just need your help.
We got you take questions on this because this is very interesting. We're faced with a lot of problems, and I've dealt with the city of Montreal as well around these issues, right? And one thing that seems to be systematic is we believe that the definition of success for large organizations is boredom, right? They don't want it's boredom. And the number one industry is don't lose my job. So when you think about it in those terms, most of the issues that you're dealing with are based on processes that have been implemented, people wanting to have their 9-to-5 jobs, not wanting more complexity, and you're fighting this all the time, and you're doing risk mitigation, because God forbid you should disrupt the routine with innovation, because that becomes a threat. And this is the number one problem we see when we do innovation workshops, that when we put the stakeholders in the room, it's not that we cannot act on it, it's they don't want to, and they have conflicts of interest for their home livelihood. That's one of the big issues we see.
Agreed.
Yeah, I have technology.
Pensions. It's everything about the pensions.
Don't lose my job.
My partner Steve and I were in a city in Oklahoma, not picking on Oklahoma. This happens in Texas too, but we go through our smart city solution for this sizable city. And the city manager goes, hey, yes, we need this. I'm going to put you in touch with our city staff, with our IT director, with our CIO, with our CTO. So we drive all the way back up to Oklahoma and meet with these folks. We go through our pitch, they're just expressionless. And we get through, and so what do you think? And they said, no one's ever asked us for that before. And I said, no one's ever asked you for what? No one's ever asked us for an artificially intelligent mobile app or a bot that does permits and I go, that's because it's new. Nobody knows to ask for it. And he said, I don't care. That's just more work for me.
That's it.
And at least he was honest, but it happens, I don't know, does that ever happen at City Hall?
I was on city staff for a number of years, and I had my friends, and I knew who could get stuff done in City Hall because you could go and you could look somewhere. When you had somebody that was really boring, you just had to find somewhere. It was either in a drawer or a cabinet with how many days till retirement.
That's right.
I mean, okay, but,
I think one of the key challenges, you bring up a very valid point, that you know where the problems are. You know where the issues are. Because whenever I'm a serial entrepreneur, I'm an investor, and one of the fundamental things you look at is what is the genuine pain point that you're solving. Right? You know the pain points, and you know what the innovation is, right? You solve the pain points. But there is just fundamental inertia that's in place to marry the two, like you just said. The guy who's looking for their retirement, he doesn't want any more change. Right? They're adverse to change because that's more work. And I'd rather wait 3 more years to get my pension for the rest of my life.
and I don't want to beat up on cities. We see this with corporations all the time, right? So this is not, you know, the bigger they are, the more this is true. I think.
So how do you fight?
So I'll tell you how my clients are fighting it. They're not asking anymore. So one of the challenges is, you know your pain point, but you don't know how you solve it internally today. So part of this idea of automation is you got to know what's going on. You know the pain, you got to know what. And nobody wants to tell you because they're holding on to the secret about how they take this Excel file and put it into a back of the system. Where maybe I saw technology about 3 months ago at an event that I had a couple of clients with me. We went to a conference. We saw this technology where all of a sudden you let this technology go into your systems, whatever you have, it really doesn't matter, and it process maps for you. And it shows you exactly what's going on at a transaction level, groups it, and shows you what work is going on in the back. And then we automate that. We're probably 3 months away from implementing that, and I'm not fake over 3 months, really 3 months at a Fortune 100 client to put that into their system and no longer need to have to go to their staff and ask them how to do this. That's real, and so they're bypassing it. They're just bypassing that problem. So you're not going to get rid of the inertia. It's impossible. There's a whole bunch of policy statements to be said here, because I think we can automate all we want, but if governments don't keep up with some of their core impacts, privacy, security, we're cutting the edge of what's cool and what's really dangerous. So there's some policy solutions we need to sort of have in place. And a lot of times that's where we can stop, right? We can solve the problem. We actually know how today. We don't have to ask. We can solve it with some technology in a couple of weeks, but we can't enact it because there isn't policy in place that lets everyone feel like they're comfortable doing it. So I don't know if we're getting to policy, but it's a huge problem in this space.
I think to answer your question about the pain point, we sit down with a city and we talk about what is your pain point. And that's what we've found a lot of our public-private partnership opportunities. But one that is a win with staff every time is we now have the ability through Esri to take our device. This is not for citizens to play with, it's only for staff. It's accessible as a tile on their app, the Cityfront. Where you're walking around the street, if you're a streets and sanitation guy, water department, sewer, and you can point your phone at the ground and you'll see the subsurface lines, where they are, where they noodle, where they connect to the city main. And then when you touch the line of your device, you can actually tap in to the back-end system and see what the pressure is of the line, control PSI, open and close valves. Well, for the person who's out there trying to navigate that without a device right now, it's very difficult to do that. So you find a way to make their job easier. And so with that and with our language interpretation, we can interpret 225, this is my favorite part of what Cityfront does. We can interpret 225 languages and sign language in a video, FaceTime, mobile experience. So a police officer pulls someone over, that person is speaking in Mandarin Chinese. You can say to Siri Mandarin Chinese, and all is looking at that person speaking Chinese. And,
I think I totally admire what you're doing.
oh, thank you.
And you got your foot in the door. And you can innovate. Because you got the foot in the door, you can relate to the problem and you can address it. But if you fundamentally want to make a change, and you want to put change up front, to be totally transformational, right? To create a tectonic shift in the marketplace, which means you need to scale. You just can't have one company doing all the innovation for you because they got the foot in the door. The city, I'm going to pick on the city because the city is there.
They're right here.
They're right for there because they're also addressing their pain point. So how do you do that? Create an innovation farm, create an incubation farm, so you have 10 of these companies working for you, bringing innovation to you. So fundamentally, they can make a change.
Oh, no, we can handle it.
But if you want to scale it,
Wow, we just went down a rabbit hole, but it sounds like for anyone that's in here that's wanting to make change in their company, one, by being here, you're doing the right thing because you're connecting with people. Like, we were just in the car today, some of the panel members went to lunch, and Brian got a call, and she was like, is another innovation person, innovation director, I believe, and she was like, I was in a meeting today, and we were thinking about this innovative idea, and there were voices in the room saying, we can't do that, that doesn't exist. We're gonna have to, I don't know if they were even thinking of building a house, but they were just like, it doesn't exist. And this woman was like, I know somebody, Brian. So by being here and connecting with people, you might be having these ideas like, hey, one, by being more innovative, it's gonna get me ahead, right? We've talked about this, Chin. So two, by bringing me ideas, but maybe there's people already out there that are doing this. So by getting connected, I can also help my company. Going to what you said, it's not just a silo effect. It can't just be one company. So all of you in here are a big part of making that happen. So the first step, you're here, but two, by learning, right? Because I hear a lot about this, just learning what's out there, putting it to use is what you can be doing right now. And I think we've kind of hit on this topic that it sounds like if we want to start making change, so we've kind of done we have the resources, we think we have the people, we might start like bringing into our organization, like how do we start inflicting that change? Like you just said that guy's like, oh, well no one's ever talked about having an AI-driven app. Like so how do you start changing the way we think about this, right? Internally, what would be your advice to people in here who wants to start making change on that mind share? It's one thing to come in with a plan, but how do you actually get people to open their minds to it?
Yeah, go.
Well, while we're thinking real quick, oh, go ahead.
I
No,
can
you-
tell
we
you
have
how
an
to do it.
idea.
You got to create a platform that will enable
Yeah,
people to come forward. You mentioned 5 problems right now.
yes.
I got a solution to 3. How do you enable a platform that's going to enable people to bring ideas forward? There is enough capital in Dallas, trust me.
Yes.
I'll tell you, I've got a $10 million fund right now. Right? How
And
do
he's
you
buying
bring
things.
capital to the ideas, to the opportunity?
Yeah.
That is the fundamental disconnect.
Scotch and Fox is pretty
You got to be from here and take the intensity up. Scotch.
I will just say, on behalf of the two of us, who we work together all day, every day, but for any of you who have specific solutions about things that we've talked about, like please feel free to come and talk to us afterwards. One of the things you'll learn about cities is it matters who can help open the door for you. For us, it matters that you keep showing up and that you get really engaged and involved in understanding what the challenges really are, more than just my interpretation of them. And so you had mentioned earlier nerd, and I think your nerd is in the technology. My nerd is I listen to every single city council committee briefing and council briefing and council agenda. So I can tell you every single thing that is going on. But it's really helpful because then we can see who is in the space, who's not in the space. Where do we need help in the space? How can we help push down levers to be able to actually get you into this? Because we have, I mean, Sam can attest to this too. We joke we were going to throw him up here, and really we should have. But this city has so many problems, and by you showing up, by you being here, and by just reaching out to now have an audience, we would love to have your engagement in several programs.
I do think the world is a little bit different today than it was like 20 years ago. I started my career 20 years ago, and you couldn't walk into a CIO's office. And there was really this corporate class structure, right? corporations only want to work with corporations of the same status. I really don't see that anymore. I don't know if that's just a Canadian thing, but I think that's really everywhere. They are way more willing to talk to you in that solution. They may dismiss you if you don't think it's feasible, but no, talk to you. I don't know if that was just 4 years ago.
Those corporations and lawyers.
But you don't talk to them first. Those are the guys you talk to last, right? Like that's the final master service agreement.
IBM versus whoever.
Right, so I do think the bar is lower. I think it requires a little boldness. I think I've seen a lot more boldness in the area for people solving problems. So I actually don't think the bar is that high. I just think people don't know what problems there are that other people need to solve, more than there are people not willing to listen. You're here, you said some really great things about willing to listen, and I think that's been ubiquitous across sort of corporations, companies, governments. It's just, you're right. I mean, we can talk platforms about putting people that solve problems with putting people that have them, and I'm sure that's one option. But the other option is just come talk to them and they'll yeah.
Sorry to interrupt, but before we're too far going down the rabbit hole here,
Yeah.
I think there's a few things that need to be addressed with bringing AI to the public. And I'll bring down a few, but it's a two-part question. But to implement these ideas, it's capital intensive, is it not? How can you implement something without leaving people behind, such as the homeless?
That's a great question.
Such as the homeless, with the capital intensiveness not outweigh the ability of our society to move forward.
So when you say capital intensive, do you mean it's destroying capital really quickly, or?
It's capital intensive in terms of infrastructure.
So I don't think it is, but I do think it's leaving a crap ton of people behind. So.
But how do you? But it has to be a rising tide.
Yeah. So great question. I will share my experience of what I've seen across the world. Just as money, social class, what I see is going to happen, good or bad, if I look at my crystal ball, is that there will be a classification or some type of gradient of intelligence, thank you, access to intelligence and applications by social classes, right?
Right.
So that means,
We were sharing.
I like your wire. That's one of the reasons why this session's happening, right? Perfect example, I come from, if I was not here today, I would be a rice farmer in northern Thailand. That's the reality. Yeah, it's been on elephants, amazing. So how do you enable places like Cambodia, Thailand, the back places in Siberia, parts of Latin America to adopt this technology? There was an article that was written about a year and a half ago where somebody had says, oh, a laptop for every child on the planet, when we haven't even solved the basic need of electricity and running water. I mean, that's like the dumbest thing ever. And so I was not a fan of that. And so you're right. It is. So when I hear capital intensive, it is capital intensive to the humans, because yes, we can spin up an environment in Azure or AWS, Google Cloud Service, and then if they have a cell connection, okay, great. But their everyday needs of eating, living, managing disease in those parts of the world, and they don't care about YouTube. They don't care about Netflix. So I think it's pressed upon us here as a group in the room, and the folks here up on the floor and the folks that are leaders out there, to understand the fact that AI is more than just solving and making money. And that's where, my passion is to leave a better legacy behind, and hopefully better than what I got the world to be. And so from that perspective, capital intensive in the word of, yes, it may segregate us, it may separate us, just like how money, title, social status, things like that. But I think we have to work very hard to leverage this together.
So I have just two things. I think you're absolutely right, and it's what I was trying to lead with. Technology is separating us in a lot of different ways. Even as we think about just how we're going to doctor's visits. When we went into one of the local major hospital entities here in Dallas, and we asked them, hey, will you invest and take the risk into going into Southern Dallas and providing care? Their answer was, sure, we'll do telehealth. Well, when was the last time you went into Southern Dallas and asked one of the humans in Southern Dallas how they feel about telehealth? Guess what they said? No chance. Like that is not an equitable solution for us. We need to and want to see a human in the same way that you want to and see a human. In the same way, one of the neighbors in that same conversation then asked the question of, Christy, you don't even know, I don't know how telehealth connects, but the presumption was that you have to have some type of Wi-Fi or some type of connectivity to actually get telehealth. And she said, we can't use our cell phones here. What makes you think we're going to be able to connect to a doctor here? And so we said, well, this is a novel idea, another problem. We have the largest DART rail, or the largest light rail in the entire country, and it goes in and out of Southern Dallas. Well, why are we not connecting Wi-Fi along that same trail so that it gets in and out of Southern Dallas? And we were told, because the hours that they would need to do maintenance don't coincide with the hours that we need to do maintenance. Well, like, you literally have a line to provide Wi-Fi access into this neighborhood, so like, again, how are we using technology to even provide equity or to provide access into the neighborhoods that really need it? And I don't know that we're doing that yet. I haven't seen it yet. I offer your help in that, or I offer help in that space if you have solutions, but I do think we're
I do not have a solution just yet, but I have a question regarding healthcare. With the Google data breach, how do you prevent AI from taking advantage of that and selling data mining and using that while you're training the program? How do you move forward in a world where everyone's breached?
So I know this is America and you don't like this answer, right? But the truth is, corporations aren't going to fix this problem, right? There are some basic things governments are going to need to do to sort of pave the way for some of this stuff. So let's be realistic. I've been at this for about 2 years. I know how many jobs are not happening because of the work I'm doing. And that's just accelerating, right? And so the truth is, are we going to add, what was the number, 500 million new jobs? I totally believe we are. But we're going to leave more than that number behind. That debt in terms of how we go and the people that get left behind is only getting bigger. And a company is going to have a...
Talking about data breach.
Yeah, so all I'm trying to say is like we have an issue, but a data breach isn't going to be solved by a company. Absolutely, AI can do bad things with it, right? The question is, was there enough in place for Google to say, I have to harden this data? Why did they have it in the first place? Why is it not encrypted by your own keys? There's a whole bunch of stuff there, and the corporations are going to fix it. They're just not. We're going to have to advocate governments to do the right thing.
I would say, it's like this. We all know the speeding limit is 70 miles an hour. That's high. Really? In Canada, it's 60, it's 70. Some places it's 70. It's like 95.
No, I get highways anymore. We're talking on a road.
Yeah. So everybody's going to speed.
Right.
It's the one that gets caught that has to pay the ticket, right?
Right.
So it's that type of premise, is that data breach are going to happen. You can have AI hack it, you can have a really smart person hack it, it doesn't matter who hacks it. But the reality is that it's the penalty that needs to be made where, and it's the, I hate to say this, public humiliation that has to occur. Because if we don't carry the fact that the government has all our data and access to everything that we do, and then they can impress upon walls or influence to us, which they already do.
More than Google, I doubt it.
So the question must be, how do you keep AI trained as a dog and not
You can't. You cannot. I can guarantee you cannot. There's a massive discussion between Elon Musk and who's the other guy?
Well, there's several of them.
The founder of Alibaba, Jack Ma. Yeah, so there's two guys who own billion-dollar firms. They're sitting there, two ends of the spectrum. Jack Ma doesn't believe that AI can overtake humans. You have Elon Musk that says, that's why I'm getting off this planet. And so the reality is that this is why we're having this forum. This is why we're having this discussion, because I want to make sure that every one of you aware of your contribution, of your data. The reality is that, yes, data is the currency of today. The currency of tomorrow is actually creativity. The things that you think in your head and how you monetize it is worth more than all the data that you've ever generated in the past 50 years. So as we are sitting in this room and we're looking at how we're going to impact change in the city, how we're going to impact change in our livelihoods, and how data breach may occur, may not occur, the reality is that it's going to happen. It's all about creativity to solve the problem.
Thank you for your time to run the panel. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Well, I'll follow up with Chin, because I love your data breach question. I know I'm going to get to you in a second, because I had some people ask me even before tonight, are we going to talk about cybersecurity? Because we're thinking of all these systems being connected and more sensors everywhere and everything. And again, it goes back to creativity. What do we have? People thinking like hackers, right? And coming up with the solutions and how they're going to train the AI. So go ahead and take your question.
Yeah, I think, one of the things that's missing from both, when I think of the city as well as the companies represented, and what I've seen the failure of most technology projects is adoption. So you can put together the greatest software in the world. I just go forward on my computer and I can see some hardware that I thought was great when I bought it. It lays there like it does because guess what? It looked easy on whenever I was watching it or saw it, but when I actually had to use it, it didn't, I wasn't smart enough to figure it out. So, the one thing, I think a suggestion as well as, your thought process is about, really, if you think about technology, it's great. You can do it all. But if you haven't thought about user adoption, as well as the investment, it is a real investment. If you want to get something successful, sometimes you're looking at 40% of what the project costs to start with. But that's when you'll start seeing the results, I think, that everybody wants to have, is when you train and educate the people. Oh, by the way, you train and educate the people, you won't lose the people because they'll understand how to use the technology. And so what you've done is you've shifted them from somebody working on Excel or data entry or file clerk to somebody that understands how to use it, and they do have a valuable job within it. So it's kind of a comment question all at the same time.
So the question is how to adopt? Like what's the magic?
And how do you think about adoption?
Yeah.
I don't have an answer, but I'm going to let these guys answer first.
It's great to hear it.
Yeah.
Because there's so much human component to it, right? Yeah, what do you guys have to say?
Oh, look, right now, the adoption rate of a mobile app by a citizen is like 12%. That's because they stink, right? And so, so there's a large city, this building there may not be in that city, but how many mobile apps did Dallas roll out? Probably 6, and citizens don't have space for that on their phone. So that is why we came in at Cityfront and said, we are one app for anyone that lives in, works for, or plays in the city of Dallas. And there's a lot of different ways we can push that out. When people start to understand that is the go-to, and you can experience so many different things in your community through that one place, then that's a good app and people will download it. And we're seeing that in some of our first early on cities. And that adoption rate is making those cities come back to us and say, hey, what else can we add? What other modules in that little wagon wheel can we add to be innovative? But I also have to ask, has anyone followed or know about the Cambridge Analytica data breach? They see the great hack who sells that. It's fascinating how data taken the wrong way and AI the wrong way can change elections. So it does need to come accordingly.
How's it the wrong way? It's just one way.
It's a bias.
It's another way.
It's a bias way.
Yeah. But I got a question. Do you guys have numbers on, people who's lost their jobs as far as your projects?
Yeah, I got numbers.
I'm going to share some numbers with you. We're all under NDA. And the guy in the camera. No, so
yeah, table 4.
Table 4, yeah. You can stop recording now. So when we engage our customers, yes, there are going to be turnover. Afterwards, I'll be happy to share my presentation for you. But those turnovers are going to already happen. So if you look at predictive analysis, folks in the back, as a former data scientist, my job was to be able to determine who my A player, B player, C player, and D players are. Based on performance criteria, how you perform your job, how to whine. So with that being said, the automation, thank you by the way, the automation of a job is yes, we're here to make the job, you guys can take a sip too. We're all at church. No, but the answer to your question directly is, those folks who are poor performers have already been identified. HR just doesn't know how to get rid of it. That's, I see all the nods in the room because we had at one time in our life worked with a D player. And how the hell are they keeping their jobs, right? So the empowerment of automation, digital workers to come in and do work in place of a D player. So what's missing? To answer your question directly, what's missing is that HR has been removed from most of these discussions. HR already knows who the performers are. But how do you tie that into a workforce that's both digital and human? How do you measure the metrics for a digital worker versus a human worker? How do you make sure that your humans are working successfully with your digital counterpart? Nobody's talking about that. I actually have a graph, and I'll show you in a bit, that says for a D player, yes, completely remove them, replace them with digital workers. For a C player, maybe it's an augmentation. For your B player, it's machine learning. For your A player, it's AI, because they work their way up there. And you want to replicate your A players. So that's my answer for you.
So I have a bit of a scary example, because, I mean, we usually agree on most things, but I guess I'm a little more concerned than Jim. So, you know, I think...
Fireball!
We do a lot of work in the mortgage space, right? So if you think about, you know, in a mortgage company, a lot of skill talent. You know, this is university graduate stuff and doing underwriting, risk analysis, that kind of stuff. We are very shortly going to require no human underwriters. That's not far away, that's soon. And so, you know, when we talk about where are these people going to go, the truth is you're right, the players will stick around. There's work to be done. There's always exceptions in weird cases, and that guy runs 3 businesses and none of them make money. How's that a thing, right? So, you know, we're going to need that. No, I wasn't talking personal. But they will not have jobs, right? And these people are so skilled down a particular path, right? They are underwriters core, that it's not easy for them to go and make that equivalent salary, which is a great salary because they do a pretty risky job that they're on the line for. They will no longer have it in 6 months. You can retrain them, but they're going to start at the bottom. The truth is that's real. That's happening today, right? And it's going to continue to happen. Now, you know, I think when we think about the kind of jobs that are going and the ones that are staying, I would say that desk worker person that's educated or really educated that's just got a single job to do, that's a huge risk today. You're in a cubicle, you're doing one job, guarantee you that's on the automation counter, right? The thing when you talk about A player, that person is actually someone that's cross-functional, across the organization, can think on their feet, can go, this doesn't feel right, that's okay. They've got some skills across, you know, it's going to take a long time to come to that. A long time.
1881.
Yeah.
It's nuts. So we're always, our entire society is based on growth, which is a cancer. We're not based on sustainability. We're ridiculously growing. And with this technology and automation, we have the ability and the know-how, the capacity to manage and regulate our own sustainability on this planet. And we're idiots. Quite frankly, we are idiots. We're growing, we're not thinking of the long term. We have to have a new social contract. We have to really think through how this technology gives us the insight to start to be responsible and perhaps to change the model of growth, economic growth, for a model of economic sustainability and human sustainability. That's the big picture. So when I came here, I'd like to understand more about this.
So, one more thing,
Yeah.
Andy, and I'll continue. I agree. I mean, there's a famous line in The Matrix of the movie where Morpheus is sitting in a chair, and then the agent comes over and says, human life is a cancer.
Yes.
You're a virus. Yeah. So there's that famous scene, and then Neo comes in with this big helicopter and shoots everybody up. So that's what they both do. It's cool scene. I believe that if we are the cancer that we are, or virus, or even call it, we also have the capability to, through genetic engineering, through technology, to change who we are, right? So part of this is that, yes, I'm a Star Trek fan because I believe what the future could be like. If I fast forward the clock and I
60, 70 years old, sitting on a lake in Canada trout fishing with my 30-year-old daughter, that we're still there. And we still are, our planet has not died, right? We've done the right things. Now, whether that means 1 billion, 5 million people's out of a job, or we move to something very interesting called social income.
Oh, you can't say that.
Oh, boy.
So these are innovative ideas, right? These have never been done before. This is one of the reasons why we're having these conversations.
I mean, I also
Nobody's
think-
talking about it.
When did work become, like, we talked about a bunch of things that made us human, you talked about a bunch of things that made you human. Nobody talked about work. Work does not make us human.
No, they do not.
It's just been something we've had to do to sort of help our lives. I think there's meaningful enterprise. I think there's things we have to do. We're not gonna all be born. But the idea that we have to go every day, I don't know a single person that comes to work and goes, this Excel spreadsheet and moving this data here is amazing. Nobody says that, right? They're just like, I need to earn $1 to send my kids to school and eat. And so we've come to make work part of who we
Make
are.
concessions.
Right? And all I'm trying to say is, we're not gonna have that problems. So,
I see it coming.
let's figure out what to do.
That's stirred up some emotions, because I see some hands.
And that's perfectly fine. We don't have
One
to
here and the
agree.
man in the back, so I want to hear, I want you two, so who wants to go first? Should we work left to right from our?
So,
I'll go first.
yeah, we'll go front to back.
Well, I see a gentleman in the back who hasn't spoken yet, so let's hear you.
Generally, the people in this room are kind of biased in one particular way, and I think it's universal to all of us, is that we like technology. Every single person in this room thinks to fit that, but a couple of people on stage have mentioned that even here in Dallas, there are people who do not fit that. There are people for whom we present technology and it is something frictional, it's something that they don't like. Earlier, a phrase was mentioned that I would like the panel to address, and that was that we're inflicting change upon markets. And I think it's an extremely appropriate phrasing because we've talked about America and Canada, and we've talked about rice farmers in Thailand, but we have talked zero about the middle ground. Tomorrow morning, more than 1 million people in Chile will jump on their metro systems and go to work. And there's over 20 million people in the greater Mexico City area. And just because my interest happens to be south of the border in the Americas, there's a heck of a lot of people using Cold War terms in the second world who have a lot to benefit from technology and the capital to make it happen, unlike the third world, but face other barriers, unique barriers. So my question to the panel is, what can we in this room do, even though it's easy in the first world, to make technology attractive, to make technology useful, and to make technology easy to adopt and all of those things for people who aren't here but have the capital to make it happen. All of those people who are in the second world, using old world terms, who have the capital but just have other blockers. What can we do for those people?
I will say that the second world is the fastest growing emerging markets and adoptions of AI ever.
Yes.
Because the first world, I hate to say this, we're fat and happy here. There's no reason for change. In order for places like Thailand, Mexico, South America, Africa, Eastern Europe, who I'm very close to, these second world technologies and countries are the ones who are actually, in my mind, making the real change.
I was working on a project in Detroit with Ford Motor, and I had a conference call with one of the VPs of innovation in Ford, and she was clear as a bell on the phone. It was like she was in the room with me. And I even commented, I said, our connection here is, you're so clear. She goes, oh yeah, I'm in Tanzania. I said, what? And I don't know what the capital city of Tanzania is.
Dar es Salaam.
Okay. Yeah, wait.
I was born there, sorry.
Okay. Were you done?
Yeah.
Sorry, that wasn't me.
Well, maybe you should finish the story.
Oh, we know so much
Well, now I better get this right. Yeah. But she was like, yeah, I'm in this whole town that I'm in, Wi-Fi and Dar es Salaam or whatever. She said, because they were a little bit later in the game than you are, and now they have this infrastructure that's amazing.
Yeah, you know how you bank in, and we talk about the second world, let's talk about third. You know how you bank in the third world with your phone? Yep, that's right. Everywhere. So we don't, we're kind of doing that, but we're really just using an app, right? They literally have money on their phone, right? So there is this idea of leapfrogging that says, okay, well, they don't have any of the anchors that we have, these things where technical debt. Technical debt is the word.
Yeah.
Actually,
Technical debt.
Right, and so I think
Digital transformation?
You're really from Tanzania?
Well,
You made this stuff up.
No, it's time. So I think like part of the challenge is that from a technology perspective, I'm actually less concerned about adoption in these areas because it's really a lot of the stuff we do today is really open source and out there, and then the guys down can take it and just use it, and they have been. And so you see that innovation where they have the pain. I think the challenge is it's hard to innovate when you're hungry, right? Which is the other challenge. So I can't solve that problem. It's way above my pay grade. Would love to hear some answers. But I'm less concerned about, when we talk about leapfrogging of technology, I just think some of this acceleration of being able to handle technology. I'll give you an example. Today, if I wanted to order a machine into my garage to check my entire genetic makeup, it would cost about $3,000 US. Right? When Bill Clinton was around, that was $1 billion. It's not that long ago. I mean, how long ago was it? 2 years? Right? That's amazing. And I think when it comes to software, especially as non-sort of tangible goods, that accelerator is really fast. So you're right, they're probably a bit behind, but I feel like they're 7 months behind and not 10 years behind, but I could be wrong. I'm open to sort of hearing it.
I will say that, so I work very close with my Latin American team, specifically down in Mexico City, Brazil, Chile, Argentina. I have several people on my team that speak Spanish for my staff. Portuguese, I have no idea. I think we are going to be in a dramatic change and shift of technical power. Everybody's talking about China, everybody's talking about Russia, everybody's talking about the US, but nobody's talking about Iceland. Nobody's talking about Germany. Nobody's talking about Brazil. Right? I mean, these are second-tier companies or countries that are investing billions, yes, but the fact that they have very, very smart people that can speak multiple languages, the fact that they've already upgraded their city infrastructure except 5G, this is very unique. And so, in the sense that, 5G here in the US, it takes an act of God, almost, depending on the municipality. So, I think that's important to understand that us, as individual contributor, your competition is not the person sitting next to you. Your competition is a person in Brazil. Your competition is a person in Iceland that can speak 5 different languages and is willing to accept a lower salary. That's the reality. We are a global market now. The idea of the fact that we're competing against Joe Schmo down the street for the same job that we're doing today, that's wrong. First of all, if you're not competing against a human, you're definitely competing against a digital worker. And that digital worker can be anywhere. Cloud, on-prem.
It's everywhere.
It's everywhere.
Yeah.
And that's why creativity is the new currency.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, we have a few more minutes, and I know everyone wants to ask more questions and actually see the digital talent we have on site. So I'll open up the questions, a few more questions, but then let's mingle. Let's
drink.
Yes, drink more. Let's see the AI in action. Do we have 1 or 2 more questions, open as we're in this actual setting before we mingle? Yes, in the back here.
Hi, I work for a large telecom company in Dallas, and we do live streams, and it's two-way. So we had an internal client that wanted more adoption on the platform as an investment platform. So we saw 30% return of extra adoption just because we talked to the people. It wasn't a one-way thing. It was okay, Sarah, what's your problem? Sarah talks to us and tells us our problem. Then we show her how to do it. So is that happening in the city of Dallas at all? like the two-way conversations over the internet where we can like show them and get them to address the problems talking together to people.
No.
It's a chatbot, that's what you've asked.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, and it goes back to, I think someone said at the very beginning of this, it all comes down to relationships. It still does. It's still human-to-human interaction. When we have the interaction, we're more likely to adopt, we're more likely to engage, we're more likely to understand how this technology can be used and how it can benefit myself. And that's what we got to do to get to that point. I'll just say one point, in case I even don't say anything else. The biggest issue in cities is really comes down to one word as it relates to technology and all these things we're talking about. It's procurement.
Oh, they're like the evil people in our company. I mean, we get like this whole dark world of procurement.
It just is. By the time, and what happens is that as the city level, we have to go jump through all these hoops to go to a particular company or buy a particular software. By that time, that technology is probably already dated. And so now we're looking at, and quite simply, people just go, screw it, to the Excel spreadsheet. But anyway, that's kind of what we're.
Procurement came from a good place, right? There's a lot of corruption, and so they said, let's create some structure around corruption. Let's make sure it doesn't go to your best pal. And then there's layers of this, and all of a sudden it's a process that's. Yeah, we're.
That's all right. Do we have one more question back here? The last one, or yes?
Yes, the last one is open in this setting. Obviously, we're in a meeting goal, but yes, Jeff.
I'm a futurologist and owner of a marketing agency, and my concern is more about the future of AI and who controls it. So when the internet was first envisioned by scientists and computer engineers, it was thought that everybody would have their own website. They would all just post stuff there, and you would just go to your friend's website to find out about them. But it turns out that didn't happen. Google and Facebook and Amazon kind of sucked up most of the internet and they own it. So what does the future of ownership of AI look like? Is it going to be owned by big tech companies, or is it going to be owned by us, the individuals?
You're one regulation away from changing the answer to that. And the truth is, today it's a company, right? It doesn't have to be. It's not hard to regulate. It's not rocket science.
Well, when we're talking about regulation about AI, this is an important question.
No, it's regulation of the data, right? AI is nothing. AI is really nothing. It's the data that made sort of that machine learning deep learning model. That's the magic, right? It's not that hard if you have the data. The question really becomes who owns that data, and just because you have a platform that someone typed a word into, does that mean that data is yours? And the question's out there, and today the answer is yes. Today, if you suck up all the DNS entries on the internet, if you have the core search engines, if people are giving you all the data, you own that data, and you can build whatever models you want to manipulate whoever you want. We probably have to change that regulation. I think GDPR and in Europe kind of did a good job to start. It at least gave you control of saying no. It didn't make you own it really, but it allowed you to stop someone else from owning it. That's probably the baby step to what this really has to get to. Because again, AI is just an algorithm that learns stuff with a bunch of experience, and we decide what that experience is. Today the answer is companies, and if we keep it this way, it goes bad.
Can I add something to this? Just maybe, I'm sorry, I don't need to go on. It's not another question. To that very point, so here's the thing that people won't understand. And I think this is an opportunity that we're missing in the industry. AI constructs a model of know-how. It's a know-how that you have as an individual. If you look at the record industry and the art, they made their money by the ability to transpose their art form into a container that could be distributed for royalty. This is a whole new economic model. The idea that you can encapsulate the know-how from your workers so that they have an incentive to actually have it encapsulated and embodied and improved over time as a reusable resource to do modeling means that you're introducing a new economic model around knowledge. Now, he's absolutely right about the data, but the whole point around this is that it's distributed. Most of the AI resources are available. They're free, they're open source. The technology makes it very easy for people to capture it. I think we have to look at it as an instrument, just like music, just like an art form, and start to really get our act together around taking our know-how, our experts, and giving them an incentive so that they can go on the beach, just like a rapper, have fun, go party well, their work makes money for them. This is really one of the options.
I just think the difference between know-how is before it was someone's know-how, and today it's just your data. They don't know anything.
Well,
You
the
stop being
AI
told them.
The AI has to do something.
No, it's okay, right?
It has to have
They could have-
a purpose, right? It has to have a purpose. It's applied in a human fabricated context. This is how you use the AI. Whether you use a convoluted neural network and you teach it to recognize images and whatever, somebody taught it to do that. Somebody owned the image intellectual property to actually train it to have a particular use case. We have to think also in terms of what is that economy? Well, how does that change? And how can you capitalize on it? Not only in terms of being a technology provider, but as a container, but as being the owner of the content, and it's how it's applied as an asset.
Can I ask one quick question? You're a futurologist?
Yeah.
What do you think the answer to that is?
Well, I know what I hope the answer is, but I'm pretty sure that I'm wrong. My hope is that it's owned by consumers, but consumers are stupid, so probably corporations.
Convenience. And I'll add on to what Joe said, because I know Joe, and I also think you need convenience. How quickly do we click that little box that says terms and whatever to whatever technology, and then we find out, well, it's using all our data for probably the AI to train it. Right, Joe? So.
Automatic opt-in.
Yes, yes. Go ahead.
So, I think this is a good way to end this, but Henry Ford once said that if you were to ask people what they actually wanted, they would have just said faster cars. And yet everyone in here is affected by the automobile. We all own them. We all are. It's totally changed our world. So my question for you guys is, as AI is basically inevitable, how do we encourage the masses to embrace it versus be fearful of it and therefore take control over what now?
Well, I mean, the Henry Ford comment made me think of visiting with Ford, and one of their VPs said, we're no longer an automobile manufacturer. We're an artificial intelligence technology company. And think about how big of a statement that is for Ford Motor. That says a lot. And I tend to think we're talking so much about smart mobility, and there's Uber, there's Lyft. I mean, raise your hand if you've heard about Uber Elevate. Sure. Right. Pretty soon, folks, we're not going to be on wheels. I mean, it's trending that way, and I think it'll come quicker than. I was talking to some folks at A&M, and I said, someone needs to be investing and researching how to create traffic lanes in the sky. There's going to be a market. Yeah, that surprised me, see? But, no, I mean, that's it.
Are you finished, Brian? Yes. I'm going to add to this, and I know a lot of us come in here about what you just said, like, how do we fear it, do we not, how do we control it? And something to remember and think about is at the end of the day, AI is just something that we've invested a lot of data in. It's learning from us. I mean, we're the ones putting data in it. It's picking up from everything else. There's a researcher over the Georgia Institute of Technology, and he's working on this only for more video games, and it's AI writing your stories for you. And it's also, he's looking at how to make robots socially ethical, right? So if someone's going to go up and get your prescriptions are going to be delivered by drones, but let's say they weren't. Let's say they were going to go to the drugstore for you. Think of how would they know to not go in, cut in front of the line, rob the place, because that's the most effective way to get you your medicine, right? And his answer was, well, we just ingest all these stories from it, and the most common themes will bubble to the surface, and that's how it learns. So technically, the way we interact in society today, the things we read, the things we write, the things that we give attention to, that's what's training our AI. So anyone can interject here, but for me, when I look at what we're putting in AI, we need to look at more at ourselves because we're the ones shaping what AI will
I have one question for that then, because I was trying to think about, at the end of the day, you've got people that are on very different wavelengths, right? So we talk about how do you get adoption, how do you influence people. Some are going to be much more familiar embracing technology, some are at the other end of the spectrum, but at the end of the day, people want to feel like they're not obsolete, right? They want to feel like they have a purpose. There was a big reaction to the comment about work being meaningful versus not. And I'm curious about how you look at AI or how you look at this as a way to embrace what skill set can a human have that will always be. And so you actually answered what I was going to say. I felt like I think the opportunity of empathy, right? And so if people reshaped what their career could be, when you take away those right? That took up so much of your day. What could you do to be, as a new profession, or think about how your work becomes something so different? And if you look at the way that technology is changing society and what that actually has contributed to in a negative sense, this could be the beauty of what this actually brings to the future. And then you look at first world, third world, whatever, and you've actually connected people much closer. So I was curious if you could just say, well, I can teach a robot empathy. My gut was, no, you can't. So if you guys are like, no, you absolutely can do that too, they have feelings and all of that, I would say a way in, or a way to look at an opportunity is just how you reshape the minds of people and what they can contribute.
And we're going to be the ones that teach it empathy. It's going to learn from us. But also, what do we do with our time? Will we earn our resources the same way? And what will we do with that extra time? Like, if I could have robots do everything for me and they're making my money for me, let's say we could still have to earn money, as we think of it today, Shin and I, we've talked about this. So then what do I do with my time to still feel like my life is worthwhile, right? Because right now I get my meaningfulness from the service that I provide and all the other ways that I live. So I know the panel has some great answers to this, but I'd love that you ask that. So I'm passing the mic.
I know Shin does as well, but I can keep taking it if you want me to.
So, in a perfect world, I would not be working 70 to 80, 90 hours a week. I know, I work kind of hard. I haven't seen my wife and daughter in 2 weeks. My wife is pregnant and she's expecting a baby in March.
Yeah, you're selling it.
I am.
You're selling it.
I'm just saying, I take money in diapers. It's all good. And booze, yes. A lot of booze because I need that. But in a perfect world, I wouldn't technically be here, right? I would
He
be.
likes us, but
Yeah, I love you guys. You guys are. This is important to me. That's why I'm here. But I would be with my wife and daughter, and we'll be reading a book tonight and put my daughter in bed. And the next morning, I'm going to wake up, hopefully in Costa Rica. Fishing.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Fishing. Right? I would probably be operating a fishing tour guide somewhere in Costa Rica, Thailand, someplace warmer than here.
Warmer than Texas.
Warmer than Toronto, too. That's what I would be doing. I would probably be teaching how to make kupong. Right? So kupong is a curry noodle gravy in northern Thailand. I would be probably DJing late nights, and my wife would probably be yelling at me because I'm getting into it. I mean, I'm going to be doing the things I want to do.
Cowboys win the Super Bowl.
Cowboys will never win the Super Bowl, but yeah. But you see where we're going with this? Very soon, we're going to have that type of moral confliction.
Jen, I'm going to challenge you a little bit. And I think everyone can hear me because I have a loud voice. How long is that reality? I mean, we always talk about this vision of... So like, where are we really on that time frame?
20 years, feels 20-ish.
20-ish?
I mean, we're feeling it now, right? We're feeling it now with the gig economy. We're seeing sort of a change in the way it works. So it's trickling, right?
Where I could literally have, like, I'm not working, I have digital workers, they're making my income for me, and I get to enjoy
So that again, it's a construct that governments want to create, right? Because no company is going to give away money. But let's assume that we vote governments the right way to sort of do what we need to do, right? The point here is that the bots are going to be working for you. If you're out fishing and your daughter gets sick, you're going to ask the bots and they're going to do the diagnoses. And that doctor that would have originally done that, you know, he's out flying a plane somewhere. And that's all, the point of this is it can get there. It can go where Star Trek or Terminator. We got to figure out which way to go. That's you, man. You did that one. Star Trek.
Yeah, so, no, but I'm hopeful for Star Trek.
Yeah.
Right? I'm hopeful for the fact that we're going to be on Mars, Pluto, wherever else, and each one of us is going to write that next chapter in
I think we're just at the inflection point, right? We haven't built the future state of how this works.
So you're saying we're going to put ourselves in situations where it's going to be so hard for us to survive. The necessity is going to be a necessity.
You're absolutely right. So I totally agree. The reason why, in my opinion, study a little bit of history, World War II was a good thing and a bad thing. Bad thing that a lot of people had, right? Bad things happen. Good things happen out of it, right? We have this amazing technology, we have the internet, we have radio, we have all this stuff that came out out of war, death. All bad things happened. But the next generation understands how bad it could be and will not, hopefully, repeat that stuff again. Right? We're hoping for that.
No, we'll repeat it. So we
Yeah, well, let's not repeat it. I was actually in Hiroshima. I was in Hiroshima about a month ago, and I'm sitting across, and I'm walking around where they actually physically dropped the bomb, and there is this mound of ashes the size of probably half this room. 80,000 people of ashes was put right there. And I'm sitting here thinking, it's a very sombering moment. You sit here and you think about all this technology and all this death, and hopefully let's make the right decision. I'm done. Wine is taking.
Let's break and mingle and ask more questions, because I love how you guys are asking such great questions. We're having such a great conversation. I don't want to end it, but we are going to break and get us off the stage. Just less formal. It'll be more fun that way anyway. So everyone, please give a hand of applause.